Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Stories podcast. Now, I know it's been a little while since I have recorded. I missed my Week 8 predictions video. Basically, my voice was just not it, so I didn't really want to record there. So I couldn't make it, but I did make the predictions and post them on my Instagram, so you guys will be able to see it and check out what my predictions were like. I did have the Ravens beating the Buccaneers, and that did happen on Thursday. But as for this episode, I did want to jump back into a little bit to the NBA bag and do a little bit of a redraft for the NBA. And I'm going to be specifically going back to the 2016 redraft, since most of these players are into their sixth year, and you've kind of already seen how they've developed, and you can really assess, I guess, a career based on, those first 6 years that I've seen so far. I just think I think it's a pretty good redraft, mainly because it's kind of the earliest point that you can really assess a career and do a redraft on it. So, without further ado, let's get right into this redraft. Now, with the first pick in the 2016 NBA draft, I have the 76ers selecting Brandon Ingram, over Ben Simmons in this situation. So obviously, number one, in 2016, the 76ers were still in the middle of their trust the process kind of slogan, and they had the first pick, and they chose Ben Simmons with this one. But in my redraft, I have Brandon Ingram, and it was hard to pick between Brandon Ingram or Jaylen Brown for the first pick. In 55 games, Ingram had 22.7 points, 5.8 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.3 threes, and 0.6 steals, 0.5 blocks, and 46% from the field. While Brown in 66 games had 23.6 points, 61.1 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2.5 threes, 1.1 steals, 0.3 blocks, and 47% from field per game. Now here, Ingram is chosen for a number of reasons. First and foremost, he has demonstrated his facilitation skills far more. Brown is more of a finisher, which is something you also need. Although they frequently depend on creators, Ingram may not be a point forward like LeBron James, but Brown's playmaking is far more comparable to that of a point forward. The 2 additional inches in height and 3 additional inches in wingspan aid Ingram as well, though it almost seems nitpicky. With more length, he may be able to survey the field and launch jumpers a little bit more easily while, focusing on ball defense. So, overall, I think Ingram was the best pick here. Even him coming out of college, where he was picked second, actually, by the Lakers, which I'll talk about later. It was, he was still a really great player, and I think now looking back on it, maybe if he was in a better situation or on a team that valued younger talent a little bit more, maybe Brandon Ingram would, be a multi-all-star player, be that representation of everybody, what everybody thinks Brandon Ingram can do. I feel like he would, he could possibly do it on the 76ers, since, they were trying to build off of young talent, whereas the Lakers, kind of just traded away all that young talent shortly after to the Pelicans for Anthony Davis. So overall, I think Brandon Ingram's career would have thrived better on the 76ers because of how a young talent focused base they were. Now coming in with the second pick, the Lakers select Jaylen Brown, where they originally picked Brandon Ingram. Now, Jaylen Brown was already a perennial all-star candidate, but his last 2 playoff runs cemented his place among the NBA's best players. This past season, he led the Celtics to the NBA Finals with 23.1 points, 6.9 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, and 2.5 three-pointers. Brown's production and solid wing defense suggest he's the type of player who will thrive in the NBA's increasingly positionless landscape. Yes, he has a very long way to go as a ball handler and facilitator, but he's only 25 years old. He'll have plenty of time to work on those aspects of the game, and if he succeeds, he might advance from being a perennial all-star candidate to straight up just an all-star. And Jaylen Brown is one of my favorite players in the NBA right now. I think he's a really great player. Right now, he's being a little overshadowed by Jason Tatum, but I feel in those bigger moments especially in the playoffs and the finals, Jaylen Brown was really outshining Jason Tatum. And I think Jaylen Brown, he has a really solid base. Now, who can say that if Jaylen Brown does go to the Lakers, do they still get LeBron? Do they still make a push, or do they try to keep their young core that they did have before the AD trade and kind of build off of that? Who knows really what they would do? But I feel like Jaylen Brown is a perfect pick here for the Lakers. I mean, he's a great player, and so far he's been one of the best players in this draft class. So might as well just pick him here at 2. Now, next up, the team that drafted Jaylen Brown here, we have the Boston Celtics. I have them choosing Jamal Murray. Again, originally they chose Jaylen Brown. And it takes a leap of faith to choose Jamal Murray over DeJounte Murray. The former has never made an all-star appearance, whereas the latter has. DeJounte's injured ACL forced him to sit out the whole 2018-19 season. Jamal missed the entire previous season due to an injury, but Jamal has accomplished more, particularly throughout the playoffs, and it's not difficult to picture him making several All-Star appearances in the future if his ACL injury heals completely. When the Denver Nuggets advanced to the Western Conference Finals in the 2020 postseason, Murray averaged 26.5 points, 6.6 assists, and 3.3 three-pointers, while shooting 43.3% from beyond the arc. He scored 142 points in games 4, 5, and 6 of the Nuggets' first-round series against the Utah Jazz. If you want to balance his absurd performances on being or if you want to blame, his absurd performances on being, in the bubble, consider that his career playoff averages are 24.3 points, 5.8 assists, and 2.7 three-pointers with a 40.9 three-point percentage. That's still all-star caliber output. Jamal barely edges DeJounte in the Murray versus Murray showdown that I put here, thanks to his proven ability to rise to big moments and a more reliable jump shot. So overall, I think Jamal Murray, the next best player in this draft class. You really couldn't go wrong with him. I think overall he's just such a great player. Might as well just pick him here at 3. Looking at the Celtics around this time, I think they definitely needed a shooter, more of just an all-around guy like Jamal Murray to put on the team, and I think it's just a great place to put him here. Now with the 4th pick, the Phoenix Suns select DeJounte Murray, where they originally selected Dragan Bender, or Dragon Bender. I'm really not sure how to say his name. But DeJounte Murray recently had a crazy season that seemed to slip under the radar thanks to the San Antonio Spurs' lackluster performance the previous season. He just joined the 29-8-2 club with averages of 21.1 points, 9.2 assists, 8.3 rebounds, and 2 steals. Murray's effective field goal percentage was below average, but at least he made enough shots to draw opponents' attention to him outside. And because of the constant pressure his playmaking generated, San Antonio's offense improved noticeably when he played. Murray checks almost all the other boxes, but his inconsistent outside shot still feels like a bit of a ceiling limiter. In this redraft, his willingness to at least attempt those shots gives him the advantage over the similar adaptable Ben Simmons. And I know you're wondering, where's Ben Simmons at? We'll get to him later on in the draft. But DeJounte Murray, I think he's another great player here. Kind of works with the Phoenix Suns on what they need at this point in time. Somebody to pair alongside with Devin Booker, things like that. So overall, I think it's a pretty good pick. Again, the best player that you can really get right now would be DeJounte Murray. Now he did just join the Atlanta Hawks, so we'll have to see how he pairs with another big all-star player like Trae Young, and also with John Collins there. So it's going to be interesting to see how they really pair it. So far throughout the NBA season, it's pretty early, but the Hawks look pretty good. They're winning games. They're currently 3-1 after playing only 4 games. and they look really good as of right now. Really just not much to say. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see again how DeJounte Murray kind of goes along with this Hawks organization, but he has not looked bad whatsoever in their last game. The last 3 games, he's put up 14, 19, and 20. 8 rebounds, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 assists, 9 assists. So really, he's staying pretty consistent overall. So yeah, they look pretty good, and DeJounte Murray looks good. So overall, probably the best pick here for the Suns. Now coming in with the 5th pick, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they'll be selecting Ben Simmons. Now Ben Simmons obviously was originally picked first, and at this spot, with the number 5th pick, they originally picked Chris Dunn. Now Ben Simmons currently leads the 2016 draft class in career wins over a replacement player, despite missing the whole 2021-22 season. He is one of the group's finest defenders, a plus rebounder, and at his position, and one of the NBA's top creators. Now, Simmons is in exceptional company thanks to his versatile game. He has accrued 2,217 rebounds and 2,127 assists throughout the course of his 275 career contests. Now, the only player in the league history to meet or surpass both marks in their first 275 games were Oscar Robertson and Magic Johnson. Now, Simmons, on the other hand, has now missed 2 full seasons due to a variety of issues. A foot injury prevented him from playing in his rookie season in 2016-17, according to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. After requesting a trade from the Philadelphia 76ers last season, he said that he wasn't mentally ready to play to his expectations. He missed the rest of the season with a back injury after the Sixers traded him to the Brooklyn Nets at the trade deadline. Serious concerns has been raised about Simmons' physical and mental health. When you combine that with his adamant refusal to shoot outside the paint, there are significant obstacles to overcome. But when he's on the court, Simmons is one of the game's most unique and versatile players. And overall, I mean, he seems like a great player, right? Like, on paper, from what we've seen, he's a great player. He's a great player on the 76ers. Yeah, again, you know, questions about does his love for the game, blah blah blah. I mean, obviously, with mental health and athletes, it seems a little bit more of a criticizing thing. Like, you can't really, heal, right? If you have like a mental health problem, if you're an athlete, because you're not playing on the court, you're not playing on the field, and that's your job in a way. But also, how are you gonna, play at your best if you're not feeling at your best, really? And that was one point that really brought a lot of attention to Ben Simmons, and a lot of negative attention. And, he was able to get out of the situation with the 76ers. He went to the Nets, obviously had the back injury, just, didn't look good, on his part, through the media. They painted him a certain way, everybody kind of doubting on Ben Simmons, once he was getting out there. But the NBA season's just started. He's playing with the Nets now. The Nets haven't looked the best. They're currently 1-4 right now on their first 5 games. But Ben Simmons, I mean, he's doing his best. His last 3 games, I mean, all of his games so far that he's played haven't looked the best. He's only putting up single digit points. Rebounds are still there. The assists are still there, but the shooting is just not the same. But again, this could be, because he missed the entire season. He's not getting, the same amount of reps that everybody else was getting last season. So, the points could be a little off. The shooting could be a little bit off. So, what Kyrie is saying, after the Dallas game is just to give Ben Simmons a break. Missing the entire season and then playing 30 minutes a game is gonna be really, physical strain on the body. So obviously he's not gonna be putting up the best stats this early on in the season, but I'm sure he'll be able to pick it up near the middle of the season. So here for the redraft, I feel that having Ben Simmons still picked in the top 5 is still a pretty good place to put him here. And also to add on top of that, he's still only 26 years old, so he could still add a lot more. He's not out of his prime yet. It's not like, he's just way out of his prime and he can't really come back to the player that he was. He can still be the player that he was. He's still young. He can still advance upon his game and add more. So really, I think Ben Simmons just needs a break after, after a 1 year kind of, hibernation, I would say. Not really, but after a 1 year absence from the game of basketball, it's going to be kind of hard to just come back and play 30 minutes a game. So, again, I feel like he'll be able to pick it up near the middle and end of the season. And, the Nets could still be a team that make the playoffs and consistently do well. Now coming in with the 6th pick, the New Orleans Pelicans select Pascal Siakam, who was actually originally picked 27th. And here the New Orleans picked actually Buddy Hield. They actually picked up Buddy Hield here with the 6th pick, which something else, remembering Buddy Hield on the New Orleans Pelicans. But since Kawhi Leonard's departure in 2019, Pascal Siakam has been Toronto's top scoring option, and the results have been positive. With Siakam on the floor, Toronto has scored an above average 115.2 points per 100 possessions. Combine that to a 108.8 when he's not. So, obviously he's doing his thing on the floor. And then each of those seasons, he averaged at least 20 points per game. Siakam's effective field goal percentage is below average, but as with Fred VanVleet, the Raptors' shooting numbers improve when he plays. So, what puts Siakam ahead of Domantas Sabonis or other players in this redraft? He's a little more versatile and capable defender for starters. With a height of 6'9", he can play as a 5-man. He could basically play 3 through 5 in my opinion. It's gonna be kind of hard to guard, a little bit faster guards, but at the 1 and 2 spots. But I feel like he's really a forward center at heart. So putting him at 3 to 5, you can't really do much. You can't really go wrong there, especially in this positionless type of league that's happening. Additionally, he has now overtaken Sabonis as a playmaker. His assist average increased from 3.5 in 2019 to 2020 to 4.5 in 2020 to 2021 to 5.3 this past season during the previous 3 seasons. So he's Pascal Siakam is just he's steadily increasing, steadily growing his game. You can really see that with the Raptors now. I feel like he has taken a little bit of a backseat since the injury that kept him out for the majority of the season a couple years ago. And then now the increasing of Fred VanVleet, and also the rising star in Scotty Barnes, who they just drafted last year, who won defensive. No, he didn't win defensive player of the year. I'm tripping. He won rookie of the year. I want to say, rookie of the year. He won rookie of the year. And, obviously, he's a great player. So I feel like Pascal Siakam's kind of taken a backseat, but I still feel like he's a great player. And, getting him over here to, the 6th spot, I felt was just the best place for him since, he's still such a great player. And it's crazy that he was drafted so late in the draft, and that he fell down all the way to the Toronto Raptors, because as of right now, he's just such a great talent. And I think he can do big numbers. If he gets on a roster where he gets the majority of the, or not the majority of the minutes, but the majority of the ball handling time and everything like that, he could definitely become a big starter in the league. Now next up with the 7th pick, I have the Denver Nuggets selecting Domantas Sabonis, which I did allude to earlier in the previous pick, and he was originally picked with the 11th selection. And the Denver Nuggets here with the 7th pick Jamal Murray, but with the 3rd pick, I put Jamal Murray there. So Denver Nuggets couldn't keep Jamal Murray, so they instead get Domantas Sabonis here. Now, Domantas Sabonis ticks many of the same boxes as Nikola Jokic, the 2-time MVP, though not quite as comprehensively. In addition to dominating the glass and setting up, teammates, he can score inside and from mid-range. In each of the previous 3 seasons, Sabonis shot 54.9% from the floor and averaged 19.2 points, 12.2 rebounds, and 5.6 assists per game. In that time, he has also received two All-Star honors. Unlike Marc Gasol or Rudy Gobert, Sabonis is not a skilled rim protector or a positioning expert. Furthermore, putting together a defense of compelling, caliber is difficult in the absence of a dominant big. He's a plus player in everything else he does, though. Since the beginning of the 2018-2019 season, his teams are over 1 points, for 100 possessions when he's on the floor, and minus 0.1 when he's off the floor. So, Domantas Sabonis, I think, is a great player. Obviously, he's a great player for the Pacers. He gets traded to the Kings. We still have to kind of see how it plays out. It's not the best, but he's still playing pretty good, in my opinion. And I think the Pacers can, Pacers may have made a mistake, but they still got Tyrese Halliburton from that trade. And Domantas Sabonis is still doing his thing with Sacramento. But overall, I mean, if you're grabbing it just from this time period in 2016, I think Domantas Sabonis was probably the best pick here that was left on the board for the Denver Nuggets. Now going into the 8th pick, the Sacramento Kings select Fred VanVleet. Now, Fred VanVleet was originally undrafted, and here at the 8th pick, the Kings actually selected Marquise Chris. Now, during the 3 seasons in which Fred VanVleet has been a full-time starter for the Toronto Raptors, he has averaged 19.2 points, 6.5 assists, and 3.3 threes per game, while shooting 37.7% from deep. He has a much lower field goal percentage than the average, but the team's shooting numbers are better when he's on the court. VanVleet's focus, comments defenses, not to mention the open looks he creates for others, makes his teammates more effective. VanVleet's lack of size may be a defensive issue, but he plays bigger than he actually is. The inconvenience is too much to overcome in some matchups, but you can always count on him being still competitive in the defensive game. This competitiveness allowed VanVleet to move from a basically a undrafted free agent to an all-star point guard, and an easy call to the top of this redraft here. I feel like he's definitely a great player. So it just made it easier to put him here at the top 10. I mean, this draft class has a lot of really good undrafted free agents around this time period. So I mean, you're bound to see more of them here. But I mean, overall, great pickups for undrafted people. And I mean, here Fred VanVleet, one of the best undrafted rookies or just undrafted players in league history. So it was just kind of easy to put him up here as one of the top 10 prospects in the draft. Now with the 9th pick, the Toronto Raptors actually keep their same pick in Jakob Poeltl. I mean, it is kind of a obvious pick here. I think he's still one of the better players, and the way he's playing with the Spurs, I mean, he's doing great. And now in this theoretical loss of Pascal Siakam, they still get Jakob Poeltl. And speaking of scalability, Jakob Poeltl maintained much of the efficiency and defensive impact that made him great, while putting up career highs in minutes per game and usage last season. Poeltl put up 13.5 points, 9.3 rebounds, 2.8 assists, and 1.7 blocks in 29 minutes per game, while shooting 61.8% from the field. And for the 5th season in a row, his team's point differential was better when he was on the floor. This impact is the result of a multi-purpose game that, is pretty heightened with his defensive awareness and his excellent bounce, as well as his ability and an underrated pass, repertoire. If Poeltl ever finds a way to, make free throws or, get better at free throws, he might be able to play on a court for long enough for just enough minutes to get into really big defensive conversations. In 2020 to 2021, he finished the 97th percentile in dunks and threes with a defensive estimated plus minus. He was in the 93rd percentile of the overall EPM last season. And I think Jakob Poeltl just overall is a pretty solid role player. I mean, he's a good starter on the Spurs, but I mean, if you put him like on the Lakers, I mean, he actually might be a starter on the Lakers now that I think about it. But I mean, he would be great. I mean, he would just be a great player for basically any team that really needs role players and that really need solid depth. I think Jakob Poeltl is, just a really great player. The way he's playing with the Spurs is great. Now, he may see an increase in minutes now that DeJounte Murray is with the Hawks. Him in San Antonio, he might be able to get more minutes and play a little bit more, and we'll be able to see really the skill that he has. But so far, he's really been doing his thing with San Antonio, especially, leaving the Raptors. He's doing pretty good with the Spurs right now. Now with the 10th pick, the Milwaukee Bucks select Malcolm Brogdon here. Now Malcolm Brogdon actually surprisingly was picked up by the Milwaukee Bucks with the 36th pick. Now here at the 10th spot, the Milwaukee Bucks picked up Thon Maker. Not a lot of people know about Thon Maker, about the conspiracy theory of his age going into the draft, and how good of a player he was here, and how his NBA career worked out. But here I have the Bucks, keeping Malcolm Brogdon here, keeping him there at that 10th spot. Now, another member of this draft class, Malcolm Brogdon, has a history of injuries that cast doubt on his ability to succeed in the future. In 2016-2017, when he made 75 appearances and won Rookie of the Year, he only averaged 51.6 appearances per season since then. He played a career-low 36 games in 2021 to 2022. However, Brogdon has demonstrated more than enough talent when he is on the court to warrant a top 10 reselection. As a primarily off-ball threat, Brogdon averaged 12.8 points and 40.8% from three in his first 3 seasons with the Milwaukee Bucks. He increased his per-game averages to 18.9 points, 6.3 assists, and 5.1 rebounds after he signed with the Indiana Pacers in 2019 to 2020. Brogdon's three-point percentage dropped to 35.2% in those 3 seasons, but that shouldn't deter you from his scalability. Brogdon has borderline all-star potential if some team can find a happy medium between what he did in Milwaukee and what he did for the Pacers, which the Boston Celtics might be able to do, which is the team that he's on right now. And I mean, it just kind of made sense to put him here with Milwaukee. I mean, he was already drafted by Milwaukee. He won Rookie of the Year, the following season, so might as well just keep him there in Milwaukee. Instead, just have him as their first pick. Now, next up with the 11th pick, I have the Orlando Magic selecting Buddy Hield. Now, Buddy Hield taking a little bit of a fall here, as he was picked 6th. And the Magic originally here picked Domantas Sabonis. Now, Buddy Hield is, of course, is on course to become one of the greatest outside shooters of all time, despite the fact that he has undoubtedly profited from the three-point revolution started by peers like Stephen Curry and Damian Lillard. Hield's 1,436 three-pointers made up the most in league history over his first 6 seasons, and his lifetime three-point percentage of 39.8% is significantly higher than the normal. Even though Hield doesn't offer much in the way of offensive production, defensive playmaking, or rebounding, his shooting alone will keep him in the NBA for many years to come. Again, I feel like he's another player that will really thrive in being a role player, and I think the Lakers should have made a trade for him that 1 year, a couple years ago. They really could have made a trade for him and pushed for him here. I think that would have been a great move. I mean, he's a really good role player. He can do his thing. I mean, he can shoot. I mean, he's just he's a good shooter for a team that really needs points. He's there. He's there. Really good depth option in my opinion. So overall, I think it was great to put the him here with the Atlanta Magic with the 11th selection. Now coming in with the 12th pick, I have the Utah Jazz selecting Dorian Finney-Smith, who was originally undrafted, and at this selection with the 12th pick, they originally picked Taurean Prince. Now, prior to the Dallas Mavericks' run to the Western Conference Finals this season, Dorian Finney-Smith had quickly developed into one of the game's best 3-and-D wings, but his playoff performance really put him on the map. Finney-Smith is now averaging 11.1 points and 2.4 three-pointers in 1,150 career postseason minutes, while shooting 41.7% from deep, and his defense is a big reason why Dallas is plus 2.3 points per 100 possessions when he's on the court in the playoffs versus minus 22.5 when he's not. Now next up, coming with the 13th pick, I have the Phoenix Suns selecting Gary Payton II, who was originally undrafted. Here they picked up Georgios Papagiannis. Now, Gary Payton doing his thing with the Golden State Warriors, or was doing his thing with the Golden State. I feel like did he sign with another team? I'm all over the place right now, but I'm pretty sure Gary Payton II on a different team. Oh yeah, he's with Portland. I'm tripping. Yeah, he's with Portland. I remember now. Yeah, he's with Portland. He's doing his thing though. He's currently injured with Portland, but I mean he was doing his thing with the Warriors over the playoffs. So here, Gary Payton II, like Caruso, gets much of his worth from playing defense, although his athleticism and 6'8" wingspan make him a better choice against wings. He'll continue to be a ceiling raiser. If his 35.8 3-point percentage in 2021 to 2022 is any indication that an average outside shooting is here to stay, the Golden State Warriors were plus 15.4 points per 100 possessions when Payton and Steph Curry played together last season. When Curry played without Payton, they were plus 8.8. Now with the 14th pick, the Chicago Bulls select Alex Caruso, who was originally undrafted, and he was doing his thing with the Lakers. And here again, he's playing with the Bulls now. So, it kind of was a match made in heaven. He's a top 15 prospect. You might as well get him to the Bulls here. And here, with the 14th selection, the Bulls originally picked up Denzel Valentine. Now, while injuries are a concern, Alex Caruso has proven to be one of the game's best perimeter defenders when he's on the floor. His team's point differential has been higher when he is in the game in each of the 5 years in the league. Although his 3-point percentage dropped to 33.3 in his first season with the Chicago Bulls last year, his 37.7 career mark, his career mark prior to that season indicates he can really unspace the floor there, and I think overall he's a really great player. So I just had to put him here with the Bulls. Now next up with the 15th pick, I have the Denver Nuggets selecting I'm gonna mess this up, but Ivica Zubac. I know him from the Clippers though. Ivica Zubac. I know I'm saying that wrong. It's kind of, I know I'm saying that wrong, but I'm gonna say Ivica Zubac. Okay, he was actually originally picked with the 32nd pick. And the Denver Nuggets here originally with the 15th selection picked up Juancho Hernan-Gomez. Now, Ivica Zubac has spent the majority of his career, and particularly the last 4 years, as a reliable starting center who can take up space on defense, clean the glass, and finish in the paint. His statistics won't ever jump out, to anybody really, but his play has been consistently solid. Zubac has averaged 9.2 points, 7.4 rebounds, and 0.9 blocks per game since the start of the 2018 to 2019 season, while shooting 61.4% from the field in just 20.9 minutes per game. And overall, he's still a pretty good player for the Clippers. He's doing his thing overall, so I was like, might as well just put him here with the Nuggets. Now next up with the 16th pick, the Boston Celtics select Caris LeVert. Now, Caris LeVert here, a little bit of an increase, going from the 20th pick to the 16th pick. Now, here the Boston Celtics actually selected Guershon Yabusele. I know I'm saying that wrong as well. But Caris LeVert's concept appears to have accomplished as much as or more than the actual player at this point. In intoxicating performances such as his 3 career games with at least 40 points and one with at least 50 make it easy to imagine what LeVert could become. Injury, however, has limited him to fewer than 50 appearances in 3 of the last 4 seasons. And he has a below average true shooting percentage in all. But his rookie season, still, LeVert's explosive scoring ability and underappreciated playmaking make him an intriguing option when healthy. Now with the 17th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies, I have here selecting Malik Beasley. Now he's taking a little bit of an increase as well, going from the 19th pick to the 17th pick, where here they actually picked up Wade Baldwin. In his first 2 seasons with the Denver Nuggets, Malik Beasley had trouble finding the floor, but over the last 4 years, he has developed into a reliable floor spacer. He is averaging 12.7 points per game since the 2018-19 season began, while shooting 38.9% from outside the arc. Beasley will continue to be included in NBA rotations with that level of 3-point production and efficiency. He might start for the long run if he can improve as a defender. Yeah, his defending is really weak. Is a really weak part of his game, but I mean that 3-point shooting is just immaculate. Okay, and a big part of why he is still in these NBA rotations. So I think it's just a good pick here to put him here with the Memphis Grizzlies at 17. Now here with the 18th pick, the Detroit Pistons select Damian Jones, who was originally picked with the 30th selection. And here with the 18th pick, the Pistons originally selected Henry Ellenson. Now Damian Jones has quietly built a solid reputation as a backup 5. He's averaged 6.2 points, 3.7 rebounds, and 0.8 blocks in 16.4 minutes per game over the last 4 seasons, while shooting 67.5% from the field. He could be of assistance to any team in need of a dependable rim runner who can also clog the paint on the other end. Now with the 19th pick, the Denver Nuggets select Taurean Prince, who did take a fall here. He was originally picked 12th, now going down to the 19th pick. Now here again, Nuggets chose Malik Beasley. And as a combo forward who has started more than half of his games, Taurean Prince has established a strong career. Although his role has been somewhat diminished over the past 2 seasons, his lifetime 3-point percentage of 37.1 and his capacity to guard a variety of spots ought to enable him to make more rotations going forward. Now with the 20th pick, I have the Indiana Pacers selecting Daniel House Jr., who's undrafted, who really started actually making a name for himself this past season. And he was undrafted. And here with the 20th pick, the Pacers selected Caris LeVert. Now, Daniel House Jr. averaged 9.7 points and 1.9 3-pointers in 27.7 minutes per game, while shooting 37.3% from deep during his 3 full seasons with the Houston Rockets. Volume, floor spacing, and willing defense will likely keep him in the NBA rotations for the foreseeable future, despite his lack of, his lack of, contributions. Really, I mean, he's kind of an all-around player, but there's a lot of mistakes in his game that he could really fix, and that could cause him to be a liability for some teams. Now with the 21st pick, the Atlanta Hawks select Juancho Hernangomez, who's taken actually a hit here. He was originally picked with the 15th selection, now going down here to the 21st. And originally the Hawks here selected DeAndre Bembry. Now Juancho Hernangomez made a name for himself in Netflix's Hustle, but the NBA hasn't given him his big break yet. But that doesn't mean it won't happen. Hernangomez is 2 inches taller than Niang and Korkmaz at 6'9", and for a player of that height, He provides, he can be reasonably effective. He can be a dangerous combo forward, off of the bench, you know, if he can regain the rhythm that he had in 2 seasons, right above average 3-point shooting. I mean, he had 17 appearances with the Jazz to finish the previous season. Shooting 43.8% from outside the arc. I mean, he's not that bad of a player. I think it's just he can be a really solid role player. Just he's kind of a mediocre starting player, I guess you could say. Now here with the 22nd selection, the Charlotte Hornets select Furkan Korkmaz, who's going up a little bit higher in this rank or this redraft, going from the 26th selection to the 22nd. And here the Hornets actually selected Malachi Richardson with this pick. Now Furkan Korkmaz is another 76ers player who, has had the same, has led the same success as a high volume floor spacer, but his 3-point percentage dropped to a career low 28.9% last season. Before that suggests that the year before was an outlier. Korkmaz also has some dribble pop and a slightly higher assist rate than Niang, who is more of a stationary spacer. Now with the 23rd selection, the Boston Celtics here select Gorgeous Niang, who actually was originally picked with the 50th selection. Now here with the 23rd pick, the Celtics actually selected Ante Zizic. I don't really know how to say his name. It was like there was a lot of accent marks on his name. Okay, I still don't know how to say it. But due to his ability to shoot outside the arc, Gorgeous Niang pushed his way into the Utah Jazz and Philadelphia 76ers rotations. Of his 1,025 career 3-point shots, Niang has made 40.4% of them. His size makes him more of a barrier for opposing offenses than our previous specialist Forbes, even though he isn't a lockdown defender. Now here with the 24th pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select Derrick Jones Jr., who was actually undrafted. Now Derrick Jones Jr., if I'm not wrong, actually really made a name for himself a couple years ago with the Heat. Now he's kind of gone out. He's kind of gone back out of the main rotations of the NBA, but he was that guy for a little bit. And originally here the 76ers selected Timothy Luwawu Cabarrot. That sounds like Goku's name, bro. They had Goku apparently with the 24th pick, but the theme continues with another defensive ace who struggles on the offensive end. Derrick Jones Jr., on the other hand, has more potential as a rim runner in the mold of Bruce Brown Jr. Throughout his career, the high flyer has made 69.1% of his shots within 3 feet of the rim. Then, with the 25th pick, the Los Angeles Clippers select Shaquille Harrison, who's another undrafted player here, in place of Bryce Johnson. Now, consider this the first flyer issued during the current redraft. In 79 appearances over the last 3 seasons, as Shaquille Harrison has only averaged 3.6 points, but he is capable of playing the kind of defense that eventually propelled Gary Payton Jr., not Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton II into the Golden State Warriors rotation. The percentages of defensive rebounds, steals, and blocks that Harrison has achieved over his career are all comparable to those of Payton. He is 4 inches tall at 6'7", which should enable him to function even better in positionless defensive schemes. However, it still seems like a difficult uphill climb to develop into a serviceable offensive player. Now with the 26th selection, the Philadelphia 76ers select Brian Forbes, who again was undrafted. In a couple years actually really made a name for himself with his perimeter game with the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs. And here the 76ers selected Furkan Korkmaz with the 26th selection. Now, the most important skill in basketball is shooting. Even if you lack the other areas, you can stay in the NBA with that specialty. That is exactly how Brian Forbes has made a living. Forbes has played over 8,000 minutes and has a career 41.3% 3-point percentage, despite a below replacement level box plus and minus. Now with the 27th pick, I have the Toronto Raptors selecting Yogi Ferrell, who again is another undrafted player who actually like a few years ago, it feels like a long time, but he really made a name for himself with the Mavericks there. He was undrafted. I want to say, yeah, this was like before Luka, and he was just going off. I mean, Yogi Ferrell was him, okay? At one point, Yogi Ferrell was that guy, okay? Now here with the Toronto Raptors, originally selected Pascal Siakam. Now there is a case to be made for Yogi Ferrell, even though it may seem odd to, rank him above three players who competed in the NBA last season and an undersized guard who was undrafted in 2016 and is presently playing in Europe with a 36.5 career three-point percentage in the NBA and a 44.1% clip in his first season. Abroad in 2021 to 2022, he is the best. He's the best shooter we have experienced so far. He might be worth a flyer if a team was looking for a head check player for the 10th or 11th slot on the roster. Now with the 28th selection, the Phoenix Suns select David Nwaba, who was undrafted, and here they originally picked up Skal Labissiere. I can't really say, but they originally got up Skal Labissiere, and originally David Nwaba should be he's pretty good. I mean, he's only appeared in at least 20 games in each of the last 6 seasons since going undrafted in 2016. But he, like Dunn, has struggled to find a consistent role. Nwaba is much better inside the area, but despite his smithable defense, his below average 3-point percentage in all but one of his seasons logs a while is difficult to keep Minor on the floor. Now coming in with the 29th selection, the San Antonio Spurs select Chris Dunn, who's actually taking a big fall here, who was originally picked with the 5th pick. And here, the San Antonio Spurs got a steal in DeJounte Murray originally, but since I have him going at 3 or 4, they had to get somebody else, so they got Chris Dunn. Now Chris Dunn, a former top 10 pick who is now at risk of quitting the NBA completely, has demonstrated his ability to defend at the NBA level. Sadly, his offense has been a complete disaster. His true shooting percentage throughout his career is 47.9%, which is 8 percentage points under the league average. Now with the last pick of the first round, the last pick of the video, the Golden State Warriors here are going to select Marquise Chris, who's taking another big fall here from the 8th selection going down all the way here. And the Golden State Warriors chose Damian Jones here originally. Now Marquise Chris was selected 8th overall in 2016, but his wildly inefficient scoring and his team's overall performance have put his NBA career on life support, and he's only played 373 games in the last he's only played 373 minutes, not games. 373 minutes in his last 2 seasons in the NBA. It's just not looking good for Marquise Chris at this point. Him going from one of the biggest stars coming out of college to just now, after 6 years, 6 seasons in the league, just has not been looking good. And I mean, I feel like he still has a lot of promise. That's why I still have him going in the first round, but yeah, it just has not looked the best for Marquise Chris. And that'll be all for today's episode. As you can tell, my voice is going a little bit out, like in the middle of the video, so that's why I kind of was a little bit short with most of the explanations. But overall, that was it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. A lot of research went into this episode, and it's a long one in the making. So, make sure you guys like it up, subscribe, comment on the video if you're watching on the visual version. And if you are listening to it on a podcast platform, make sure you leave the podcast a 5-star review and give it a follow. That'd be greatly appreciated. But that was all. So again, thank you for listening and watching all the way through. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.